I mean, the reason I got into punk is like, honestly, I just hated everything else. Like, I was in high school and there was something about like punk that just made me like click to it because it was like that same angst I felt. It was just weird and I felt like I didn't click with anybody.
Well, it's like the first time something makes sense. As you walk in, you're like, oh, cool, like,
yeah,
finally. At least in like a Philadelphia music capacity, it was really just like meeting Jeff and like a bunch of your friends at college, like at Temple, and that kind of was the start for us. It was like going to weird shows with people just be like, yo, there's this thing going on this weekend, you gotta come. And this was like, what, 2001, right? So it's like no internet, like just had like word of mouth everything, and like I basically like met Jeff and then a couple of your friends, and then got drug all over the city to these weird places to come see music.
Yeah, like Philadelphia just has like such a different kind of punk scene than the rest of the country. Especially in like 2001, there was an underground. There was just like things that like people didn't know existed at that point. Because literally it was flyering, it was word of mouth. There was no internet. You just found out about it.
Philly's underground, so to speak, it was always felt stronger and healthier than everywhere else to me. It's like, like starting to travel around and playing in bands, it's like you'd always come back and be like, oh, like it's that same thing. It's like, this makes sense. This is the place that like everything works, and it's like everyone's on the level. And like, that's what kept me here after all this time, is just like that community.
Head down, I'd rather die here than spend my last day maybe.
Like the big thing with Philly is the continuity. For the most part, people have just kind of kept the original conversation going. There's so much coming out of the city, and it's always like, people stay here. It's this weird thing. Everybody knows people that are older than them that kind of showed them the ropes, and they had people that did the same thing for them. Those people did the same thing that did for them, and it's like, you're handed all these like projects and bands, venues, like all these kinds of things just sort of like start to transition to the next thing that's coming up, and it just kind of keeps going. And I don't get that same vibe from most other cities. I realize there's exceptions for this, but that's a huge element for Philly, is like everyone's willingness to kind of keep it going and like spend time like with people that are coming up.
And there's always something. You just have to pay attention, you know. Like the people, these old, I won't say old people. What's the concept of old in Philly? But like there's always these people that are like our age or older that they're like, there's nothing exists anymore. And it's like, no, you're not paying attention. There is tons of stuff going on. There's a new group of kids that are doing shows. And like, you just have to pay attention.
It's just crazy to think that like it was something that we did like kind of for sport, you know, when we were a bit younger. It was just like a fun, interesting thing to do. And then like blinking, and it was a couple years later, and realizing that there was like multiple versions of the experience that we had happening around us. Like all these crazy little bubbles, and it was starting to be like more and more and more and more. And you're starting to see there be more shows every week, more venues opening up, all kinds of stuff starting to happen. Sold out at the Fillmore, sold out at Union Transfer, sold out at the Troc or whatever, Brenda's, and everything can be filled up to the gills, and all the house shows are happening, and there's all the stuff that you've never heard of happening outside of your world, and like there's just so much now, and there's people moving here in groups. Before it was like, we got to tour because we got to get out of here. Like this place is a hellhole.
No, a lot of bands are moving here now. We are a destination city, and I don't mind if people move here, but I guess it's like, what for? The Menzingers moving here was cool because they really developed their own thing here, and that was what was great about it. It was like Scranton kids that moved here, did their like own thing in South Philly, and it was great.
It felt like when Menzingers had come through that like everything was over. By 2008, it was like a lot of like our old band was done, a lot of our friends' old bands were done. Things had kind of crawled to a halt. A lot of people were moving on or doing other things, and it was like, oh, cool, well, great job, everybody, but you know, see you at Fest, and that's probably it. And like that was kind of it. And then it was just like, hey man, you coming to that show down at that place in South Philly? And you're like, what place in South Philly? And it was like Disgraceland or Ava House. And like suddenly there was all this stuff happening with all these bands I've never heard of before. in all these buildings I'd never heard of before, and you'd get there and there'd be hundreds of people.
You're
And you're like, I don't understand how this works. This
like,
makes
this is
absolutely
great.
no sense to me. And this happens every couple of years now for me, where it's just like, I feel I've gotten to the end of whatever it is that's happening. This is a very punk thing, I think, is like this kind of like continual reinvention within this space. And like, it's just so insane to me that that's the way it is now. It just feels really substantial now in the city that there's like a whole thing happening out of that like DIY community again in a very powerful way. It definitely feels like the end of a chapter in Philly for a lot of music stuff, and to see that kind of be the thing that's getting the most headlines now is like super exciting, because like sonically that is such a broad thing. There's so many different things happening in that music on top of it being just like insane noise. But like it just comes from so many different places. It's really exciting that people are tapping into that. Like the possibilities for new music coming out of the city is awesome. I'm so excited about that. What a great time for punk, right? Like you're watching the old order literally collapse. You would think that like the old head punks would be so excited to finally watch capitalism fall apart.
Right.
Patriarchy's finally going down. Like everything's actually going away.
Yeah.
What an exciting time.
It's no, I mean it's good. It's fuck all that. Fuck all that elitist bullshit. It's not even worth it, you know? It's like this should have been like this in the first place, you know?
There's something really great about watching like all the stuff you spent all the years reading in zines about like socialism politically and all that, and like watching it start to come into play in real life finally. It's like, oh wow, the punks are winning. Oh, this is so cool. Like this is all the shit that everybody's been talking about for so long is finally happening in like a national level. And it's like, oh shit, this is crazy. And like you start to kind of dig in a little bit with other people, and you're like, it's just awesome to see like how much further that spread. And I can't, you know, say that punk can exclusively claim responsibility for it, but it's just so cool to see that you feel like at least if everybody's working for a certain idea or worldview or something, I'd like to see that kind of like start to happen. We're lucky that we live in a city that has had this continual conversation in the same, you know, kind of lane, I guess, for so long. It's like easy to either be involved in punk tangentially or know somebody that is, or like be exposed to it one way or another. And like, Philly's very strong now. It's really cool. And again, like, you know, you hate to say like everything comes or stems exclusively from punk or something, but there's certainly it feels like a large influence in a lot of corners of the city right now.
I say that they call it the city of brotherly love is because we hate each other, we yell at each other, but when shit goes down, we're fucking friends. And that's why I think Philly is. Like if something happened in our city, we would all fucking get together and like do something about it, you know? That's why Philly is the way it is, you know? But the next day we'll yell at each other. That's just how it works, you know? You know? Yeah.
Only we can yell at us.
Right. Yeah.
Basically,
Don't you talk shit about
Don't
my
talk shit.
city. It's
Boom.
the worst place in America.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Oh, that was fucking beautiful.
We're a losing town. Your band's never gonna make it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have a chance. Like, this town's not built for it. People aren't gonna come to your shows. No one's gonna give you any money.
Right.
No one's gonna help you out at all. You have to do absolutely everything yourself and sustain it.
Right.
That's it. You don't have a choice. And like,
So when you start out with that mentality, that
Totally.
means you're pushing hard.
and that's ingrained in every sports fan in Philadelphia, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just never gonna happen for you, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're never gonna win.